let's get into this WNBA CBA update. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this because there hasn't been any developments based on what happened this past Sunday. The executive committee for the Women's National Basketball Players Association held a call Sunday to discuss the WNBA's latest collective bargaining agreement proposal, which arrived on Friday. The EC wanted to really understand everybody's point of view and get on the same page about what we were asking for. A WNBPA Vice President Breanna Stewart told CBS Sports in an exclusive interview Monday. The WNBA's proposal, the league's first response to the players' latest offer, which comes more than 6 weeks ago, didn't move much money-wise, Stewart says, but there are some minimum standard requirements that did come into play. That was important, Stewart added, because that means that the league heard us on things that matter to us. Notably, the league's latest proposal offers concessions on player housing and facility standards. First-year players and players on a minimum salary will be provided a one-bedroom apartment for the first 3 years of the CBA, while developmental players will be provided a studio apartment, a source familiar with the negotiations confirmed to CBS Sports. So, and it has this note here, the WNBA has provided housing for players since 1999. The most recent CBA teams were required to offer players a one-bedroom apartment or a stipend for housing cost. So, what do you guys think of this? I mean, I find what's peculiar is that we've been getting press releases from all the teams saying this season's going to happen. I mean, I've been seeing, hey, come to the first preseason game. Hey, come to the first season, for a first regular season game. The schedules have been released. We haven't had the expansion draft yet. And it's February 11th. March Madness is next month. If this spreads to next month, I mean, there's supposed to be the WNBA Draft, the WNBA Lottery. I mean, do you think this is resolved by then? I mean, I would think the heat is on to get something resolved here. Who do you think K's first? And Alan, I'll go with you first.
I think, I don't want to say cave, but it sounds to me from that quote from Breanna Stewart that the players are setting themselves up to say, hey, we got some of what we wanted. Let's go. So that's the direction I think this is headed. And I think it's going to be a crazy few months. It's going to be very much like post-COVID, lockouts everything's lifted, go, 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 go. So you're going to be looking at expansion draft, free agency, all happening within, the course of a month or something like that. And it's just going to be really crazy. Probably a lot of fun. And we'll have to see kind of what happens with it.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't remember your initial question, but I do think the players are going to come back to the table first to get this deal done. If it's going to get done, it seems to me, Alan, I agree with what you said. It's kind of like Breanna Stewart was selling a victory there in those comments to make it, even though I'm sure in closed doors, they probably don't feel like they got a massive win. It's certainly nowhere near the things that the players were initially asking. But I find it fascinating because if you look at Unrivaled in that league and just the reality of what happened there, let's be real. The league was set up by players, Breanna Stewart being one of them, to be supplementary to the WNBA. It was never supposed to be, hey, if the WNBA doesn't work out, we go here and we just do this thing. That was not the thinking in its conception. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. What's interesting is I think the owners sat in wait to see how Unrivaled was going to do. There was not much movement. There was kind of that stalemate in the negotiations of the CBA. They saw that, unfortunately, because of injuries, because of other things, the ratings suffered a little bit there. And I think that was where the players started to lose leverage on the business side of things in this negotiation. I think in what I've seen, and certainly I can't speak for everyone, it just seems like the players, not only on that side, but also in the court of public opinion, have lost a lot of leverage. Because I think their biggest leverage was sympathy from the public. When you look at if a season doesn't happen, if the players don't accept the deal, which for many players like triples or more their salary, then that is a huge hit to people, the players that do not have endorsement deals, like players outside of your Caitlin Clark, your Angel Reese. So I think when you factor all those things in, that's why my answer to your question, your original question there, Justin, would be, I think the players are coming to the table. I just don't think they have nearly any leverage at this point, despite the massive support that they get from media and, of course, several people that we talk to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And Justin, I'd love to know your thoughts too.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the unfortunate thing is Unrivaled so new, right? And new leagues take a long time to develop a following. And like you said, Matt, with injuries, and just it being a second year league and also a new concept. I mean, this is 3-on-3. Also, they have the 1-versus-1. I mean, you're on a network that, took a huge hit. That's without the NBA. It's a, TNT's in a bit of a transition here. So all those things, I mean, has resulted in a decrease in ratings. And I think, like you're saying, that leverage has decreased. I agree with you. But I do think this is not over. And I think I'm very curious to see how long this agreement's going to go, because I don't think Unrivaled's going away. And I think just based on the concept and just how relevant it is, I do see it sticking around. I think you're going to see a lot more players, be interested in it. I see a Juju Watkins being interested in it. We've seen, Paige Beckers already, participate. And we've seen a lot of, great players from the WB in it. So I don't think this league's going away. And I think it's going to take some time to really grow. So I feel you, man. I'm in agreement with you. I do think this, due to just the momentum, and just the expansion teams and everything, the clock is ticking, and I think that favors the owners in terms of what they want.
Well, and let me just kind of counterpoint or maybe thought experiment here. I do think there is a point where the salaries get to where on the ownership side of the WNBA, I do wonder if there's a point where they say, I want to protect my investment. We're going to have a clause in this next agreement that you can't play in these other leagues if you want to make, this much, or you want to have this amount of revenue share. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm curious to see if that's going to be a bargaining strategy of the owners, because let's be real, if Unrivaled went the other way and took off, I mean, this is a direct competitor to the WNBA. So why would I support you who has a conflict of interest? You are players set up this Unrivaled league, credit to them for that. But if I'm your employer on this side, why am I going to pay you more money and support like my own competition in a sense? Now, granted, their seasons aren't overlapping with the way it's structured right now, but where they're going to take it. They're going to say, if you get hurt and if you tear an Achilles in Unrivaled, let's say, then that hurts my product in the WNBA. I think, just to put one more point and then I'll shut up. I think the players are going to have more leverage once the WNBA owns more of itself. Like when we get this 16% portion of the investment, if they're able to buy that back, and then also if they're able to fully own theirself, I think that will bring more of the court of public opinion on the side of the players. I think once they establish that. Right now, it's just such a hard spot for them to argue for with how they've been subsidized by the NBA over the years. That's part of the thing that makes their leverage difficult to start from. And then, like we discussed, I just think it's diminished since we talked about this in October.
Yep. Alan, do you want to add something to that?
No, I don't know. Yeah, I think, Matt, you're spot on. And Justin, I think we kind of all agree that there's, most businesses have non-competes, obviously, in the corporate world. In this case, it doesn't make sense, but if you're going to, I think the players, if they want to, if the ownership is going to come back with like, you can't play an Unrivaled or you can't do this, then they need to push for a longer season and higher pay so that they don't have to. Right now, they have to. They don't make enough money. They have to spend their off season playing in Russia or playing in Unrivaled. So there's got to there's got to be some give and take there at some point.
And the good thing is those are things like a longer season, especially, is something that the league needs, as it expands. So there's kind of alignment there. But, going back and mentioning Cuban again, I mean, remember, he didn't want Dirk playing on Team Germany, and he loved Dirk Nowitzki and supported him in just about everything. So I can't imagine the WNBA owners, at least a portion of them, might not take a similar stance when push comes to shove.
If Caitlin Clark was playing in Unrivaled, I think there'd be a huge push to put that clause in there, because she's the face of the W. So and if she sprain an ankle, a huge injury, I think there'd be a lot of momentum towards that.
And let's bookmark this, and we'll see where we are when these negotiations happen again, and if Caitlin Clark has played in Unrivaled, because that also that changes the leverage there in a sense. If she were playing games, I mean, we know that she is ratings gold. So we might be having a slightly different conversation here if that had been the case this year.
And we'll see next year, because this year she's recovering from an injury. Last year it was pretty much nonstop. She didn't have a break. Yeah. So I mean, we're gonna see what happens this time next year. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up one thing about Caitlin Clark, and then I'm happy to move on. And that's, did you all catch that she was live on the NBC broadcast the other day, and Reggie Miller was asked to do her player comp in the NBA, and he said Peyton Pritchard, and her face was just like, "What the heck are you talking about, man?"
Well, I found it very interesting because I think Jeff Teague's podcast, they were totally like the opposite. They felt like that was an insult to Peyton Pritchard.
Really?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I thought it was like a pretty weak comparison on Reggie's part.
I would imagine Reggie is probably getting roasted on the social media side for that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.